It's time to get it, and you know how we get it. Americano, the podcast about all things business and personal growth with your host, Eric Vonheim. So today I would love to welcome Shauna Wetenkamp. Shauna, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm super good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Now, for our listeners out there, Shauna is a successful and passionate female entrepreneur, everybody. And I think she identifies with being perfectly imperfect, if I got that correct, based upon her Instagram profile. Is that correct, Shauna?
Yes, very much so.
Excellent. I really like that. I mean, when I saw your profile on Instagram and I read perfectly imperfect, I thought to myself, that's beautiful, because there's so many of us that are always beating ourselves up about not being perfect in so many areas of our life. But, you know, sometimes being imperfect is perfection in itself. That's what makes us unique.
Yeah. Well, that's what makes us human, really.
You're 100%.
All the messing up, really.
Yeah. We're all work in progress, right?
Mm-hmm.
So where did that come to your mind, or did you read that somewhere? Or, I mean, I feel like it's just brilliant. So where does that come from?
No, I mean, I'm sure like everything we've learned from somewhere else, but it was actually probably about 10 years ago. I was in a workshop with a teacher who I admire, someone who has been a mentor to me. And she said those words. I don't even remember what it was about. I don't remember anything other than that's exactly what I am. Like I just so resonated with it. And I was like, yep, that's me. And it stuck with me forever, because it's something that I can go back to and realize like, okay, yeah, like it's important for me to see that I am human and I'm not always going to be that at 100% or looking exactly the right way or being exactly what others maybe feel like is the shoulds. And I like to not have the shoulds. And so, yeah, that's kind of where it came from.
I love it. So you were in a was this a personal growth workshop, or was it something to do with your industry? Do you remember?
Yeah, a little bit of both. It was definitely in the field of, I have done a lot of studying and learning on the emotional benefits of all different types of life, and all the different tools we can be using and things like that. And so that's what she was sharing on. So that's kind of where it stemmed from. And I honestly, like only remember the words. I don't even remember what she referred to it about. Like, so I probably have it somewhere in one of my many notebooks, but yeah, it's definitely, I agree, brilliant. And it's just like, yes, that's the best thing ever.
I love it. Well framed. I'm glad you put that in your profile, and I'm sure beyond myself, there's others that have read that and maybe thought the same. So yeah. Excellent. So I thought we could get into a few topics. And the first one is maybe just sharing a little bit about yourself in terms of, you know, where you're born or where you grew up, and just kind of give our listeners a little quick overview about yourself, Shauna.
Yeah, I was born in the Bay Area in Northern California, and then raised in the Central Valley, which I only stayed there until I graduated from high school. And then I moved to Southern California. And then from there, went to Sacramento, and I was in Sacramento for a good 15 years and raised 4 kids and did the whole, you know, married with kids and then get divorced and then work as a single mom and just really running your own business. And kind of, I feel like I've lived this full life, but still I feel like a kid myself. So I can't really.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy, all the different things that I've been through. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm from, mostly Northern California though. So I super love California, California girl at heart, and don't really anticipate leaving.
Nice. So wow, you were born and raised in Northern California, and you've spent the majority of your life in Northern California with your family and such.
My own family, siblings, and all that, they're all over the country. But yeah, my kids are here, and it's kind of why I stay here. Not really why. I love California, so that's part of why I'm here. But I think that, you know, you can't really go too far from the people who you grew up with and can relate to. So yeah. California is that for me, really.
Yeah, it's a beautiful state. Although I think many of us pay what we call the sunshine tax to live here, right?
It's true. So true.
The sunshine tax. In my own personal experience, some of the people that have lived in proximity to me in Southern California and have been here for years, and then what they've done is they were thinking, okay, we're going to move away, we're going to get a big house. I find that a lot of those people, I'd probably estimate at least 75% of them end up moving back to California.
Oh, they do, always, because they can't handle the weather. I have many people, same thing. It's like, oh yeah, I'm going to get away because it's cheaper, but really, you got to have the sunshine.
Yeah, I think people crave it. Or if you've been especially in California, if you've been used to being close to the ocean, and at least the proximity to, because a lot of us live somewhat close to the ocean, but we may not go, but we just kind of like the idea of it being there. I feel like
I feel like you need to go to the ocean more.
Exactly. I feel like being landlocked is like, almost like being claustrophobic.
It is. No, it's not a good way to live at all.
Exactly. So Northern California, fantastic. And you raised a family, so 4 children.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So have you been an entrepreneur this entire time as you've been raising these 4 children of yours?
For about 8 years. Yeah. Okay. So I've done a variety of things, but for 8 years I've done the same thing. Okay. And so I was like, basically when I started, my oldest was however old, just a teenager.
Okay. And what particular career or industry is that, or that 8 years, the last 8 years?
I started doing, working with essential oils with a company called doTERRA. And so it's a direct marketing company, also like an MLM or a pyramid scheme, all those different things that everybody knows it as. I started doing that, and I also teach meditation and yoga. So I kind of incorporate all of it into the same thing. But my main business is doing and leading a team with doTERRA.
That is fantastic. And, I just so happen to use that product. Yes, I've been using On Guard.
That's the best ever.
Yeah. So I've used this, been using this product actually for a while. And this is not a paid promotion or paid plug for the product. I just happen to be using the product because I really enjoy travel. And I find that airplanes and airports are quite dirty.
Oh, yes. Yeah, On Guard is the best one to have as a travel companion for sure.
Fantastic. So I tend to just take 6 or 8 of these little pellets. Is that the appropriate amount?
Yeah. I mean, really, you can't, it's something that, it's not, you can't necessarily overdo it. And you're taking, I assume, the little beadlets, which is like a third of a drop. So you're getting, you're essentially only taking a couple of drops in one day. So I think you're good.
Oh, okay, good. Because I don't want to overdose on these beadlets.
Yeah, it just flushes out of your system. You're good.
Fantastic. So doTERRA, now that's it's interesting you bring up these some of these phrases like multi-level marketing and pyramid scheme, because I think sometimes there's a negative connotation that's associated with those forms of businesses. Yeah. In my experience, and certainly one of the things I talk to my students about at the college I teach at is, one of the most effective ways at selling a product is through word of mouth. And companies such as doTERRA and others like Amway and Mary Kay and Herbalife and some of these other large national brands or worldwide brands are relying on that model of word of mouth. And so, I always try to at least, share with people, these are just different types of businesses. They're not necessarily good, not necessarily bad. They're just different types of businesses, and there's different structures to them. And they can actually be quite beneficial to the consumers. They can be very beneficial to the businesses itself and for people such as yourself. Now, is it fair to say that as being a part of that organization, you're an independent contractor?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Exactly.
So what does it mean to be an independent contractor for doTERRA?
Basically, you own your own business. And so it's all about the residual income. And I have found that there's nothing I could be doing that would have any more benefit for me than have this team that I'm growing and developing to be able to have the residual income happening for me. So I basically can be making money while I'm sleeping. I can take a vacation and still get paid. I can, always have the money coming in no matter the circumstance. And so, like you mentioned, every single one of the different types of direct marketing companies, everyone's set up differently in how they pay. But the basic idea is that residual income. And I think also with it, and that's why, I bring up all of those terms, because I want to put it out there all the time for people to say, kind of make light of it in a way of like, this is what you're used to hearing about it, but it isn't a negative thing. This is a very positive thing and what it can do for you. And also it's two different things. It's a relationship business and it's a personal development business as well. And so I don't think those are the things that people typically expect to be the outcome of beginning something like this, but it's really what they end up being for you more than the residual income.
So there's a lot of freedom that you get in being in this type of structure then compared to a traditional job where you're a W-2 employee where maybe you have to be in the specific location from 8 to 5 or weekends or something to that effect. Because I heard you mention travel. So you can actually run your business outside of residing in Northern California?
Oh, yeah. Like right now, I actually am a gypsy is what I've been referring to myself as. I actually don't have a physical address right now. I'm just traveling around and I can do my business wherever. So I have a team all around the world and I can do it in the United States where I'm teaching classes, leading my team, or I can be in another country. So it just kind of depends on the person, what they have going on. But yeah, I mean, it gives you that freedom, but it's also, you still have that responsibility of not just that discipline, but the willingness to be consistent in whatever efforts you're going to be making in your own business.
That sounds like the perfect scenario, especially if, when you're raising a family or some people that are currently raising a family. It just seems like there's a lot of positive things that come from being able to be involved in a business, but yet have those moments in your day where you can break away and maybe take care of something for your family or a friend. Or in many ways, it probably just forces you to become better at time management. Is that a fair statement? Because you have to kind of manage the work in your life?
Yeah, big time. I mean, it's kind of, you have to, it's not your typical job where you're like, okay, from 8 to 5. And you can work it that way. You can be really organized and have those set hours where okay, from 8 to 11, I'm doing this. And from 2 to 4, I'm doing this. But you also have the flexibility to say, all right, well, you know what? Like, for example, tomorrow, my son is going to skip class and we're going to the movies. So it's like, I can do that because I don't have an 8 to 5 job and I can plan it accordingly that, okay, we're going to go to the movies tomorrow. So I'll work later in the day. That works out fine for me.
Right. So there's a lot of positives, but what are some of the downsides? I mean, there has to be at least one or two things that from time to time you're just thinking, and probably justifying, reminding yourself of all the positive things. And so what's that 1, 2, or 3 items where you think to yourself, it is a bit of a struggle as an independent contractor?
Well, I would say the first thing that comes to mind is taxes. Like that, just paying your own taxes, doing all that side of it. I do hire out to have someone take care of that for me, but still it's just this like, it's so annoying. But the other thing I feel like I hear a lot, and I've experienced it myself, is that you get into this mindset of, oh, I have all this freedom. This allows me to like do whatever, however, you're not necessarily disciplined enough. But then also you can get to the point of like your brain never turns it off. So you're like always working. You can't walk away from it because it is everywhere you go. Like you're working, you own your own business.
Right.
You can't just leave the office. Like you are the office.
You are the office.
Yes. So I find like there'll be times it's like 11 o'clock at night and I'm like, all right, I'm still going strong, and those days are great, but if it's that way every single day, you can really burn yourself out. So you have to be willing to still say, okay, I have to set time for I'm going to take a break.
So what are some of the techniques that you use to keep that balance in? Because you make a good point about you are the office. I mean, it's almost as if there's no punching out and there's no punching in. You're just permanently immersed in this business. So do you have certain tips that you could share with others?
It's been a learning process for myself. So it definitely took a few years for me to really get in the groove of it. But I found it most helpful to have a few set days that were my work days, a few set days that were my go run errands type of things, go to the post office and anything that's out and about.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also schedule in, I have 2 days a week that are absolutely nothing. I mean, I'll take a call here and there, but for the most part, it's like I'm going and getting a massage. I'm going, just shopping, grocery shopping, or I'm just taking me days because you're on all the time. Like you're not even giving yourself enough of a lunch break, say, and you could easily work, 24 hours a day. It's so easy to get carried away because it's exciting and you're helping people and, you could really get overly involved with it. You have to schedule in your days off. So I've done that. I schedule my days off. I schedule days with and times with friends or kids. I schedule, anything that even vacation time, I'll still make it like work and vacation kind of both go together, but I have to have my downtime. Like you have to allow yourself and give yourself permission to do nothing.
It's such, and that's such a good point that you make and a great reminder for all of us, because to your point, when you have your own business, it's your baby, right? And you're so excited about it. Your whole livelihood depends on its success. And you're excited and you want to work on it and it's there. And especially for many people that are working out of their home, or to you, if they're working like you are as a gypsy, which I think is the ideal. I think that's utopia. Quite frankly, the gypsy is not bad. I mean, to be able to move around, go where you want to go and set up shop. I think that's beautiful. So I would imagine that, making some time for yourself is really important. And I love the fact that you're involved in meditation and it seems like your business is very complementary. So it's almost like it's full circle. You're teaching and practicing yoga and meditation, but you're also offering a product that is a sort of a beautiful complement to those type of activities. And so I think that's a perfect storm right there.
It is. I mean, I for me, and I would encourage anyone with their own business, like you have to be not just passionate about it, but living the life that you're sharing with other people. And I feel like for me, that's what's been helpful is that, for years I was teaching all of these things in workshops and classes, and whether it was like meditation or just essential oils or just speaking in terms of how to be a good leader or how to have your own business. I was teaching all of these things. And then I got the opportunity to really apply it to my own life once I had an accident that nearly took my life and got to apply these things and see that, okay, you really do believe these things. These aren't just things you're teaching and speaking about. These are things that you really live by.
Right.
And not that I didn't already know that, but it's like I got to kind of prove that to myself. And I think it's important for us to remember that. Remember that the things that we're speaking about, we're not just saying them to say them. Like we really feel them. We really mean them. And we have it in our heart to serve someone or to get our products out there because we enjoy these products, whatever it may be. It's important to feel it and not just be doing it just because your friend said it's a great idea,
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think that when you become your product and, it's like you're not even selling. Really what you're doing is you're sharing your storytelling. You're simply sharing your story about how a particular product improved your life or, got you through a period of time or helped you in some capacity. I mean, I think about how most products are shared with people. Like for example, today I had lunch at a new restaurant and I had posted something to Instagram story and it was this Mediterranean dish. And, immediately following that post, I had some people that had asked me, where is this where's this at?
Right.
And because they're just like, where's this food? I'm hungry.
Yeah.
Find me. And so, they see the photo. I'm sharing that not because the restaurant's asking me or I'm paid to do it. I'm sharing it because it's a great product and it was actually quite enjoyable.
Right.
And the byproduct of me sharing is people asking questions and me then saying, hey, yeah, check it out. They're over here. And I think that's that whole organic mechanism that ties into word of mouth and people trusting people that they know to recommend products and services. In this case, it was food. So, this idea about also becoming, being your brand and representing the brand is so critical. And I think that whatever field that somebody is in, the closer they can get to those products and services in terms of actually using them, the better, because then your passion is just going to come through. I almost think about imagine if we were selling cars, right? I mean, I think before I could even sell a car, my first question would be, can I test drive the car?
Right.
Because I would want to know
what you were talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it just seems so basic. And so I think it's really important that we try products, we experience products. And then if we truly believe in them, then let's get behind them and let's be an advocate for it. It's not even selling. We're just storytelling. We're just sharing our passion for a product, no different than if we did it and we weren't paid for it. Right.
Well, and I think it's important to have that as a value that you hold because there are no get rich quick type of things. And so a lot of times people jump into these different MLMs or direct marketing companies because they feel like, oh, this is a great way to make a quick buck or this is something, but it's really not. Like, this is something that if you are doing it for that reason, maybe you'll make for a month a quick buck, but in the end, long term, it's not really setting you up for success because you're doing it for the wrong reasons and you're not even feeling the passion of what it is you're doing. Exactly.
Your heart is not in the right place.
Right.
Yeah, 100% agree with you on that. So that's some good advice. So, I mean, if you had to just sort of sum it up, I mean, as an independent contractor, and let's say specifically with doTERRA, what recommendation would you give to another doTERRA representative out there that might be listening?
Really, it's about, like I mentioned earlier, personal development. You cannot do anything well unless you're feeling as close to 100% as you can. Okay. And being in touch with your feelings, being willing to learn, being able to be teachable.
Okay.
And, if you're able to be teachable, then you can be in a space that you're open. You're open to hearing what other people need. You're open to seeing how you can grow and strengthen any area of your life, which then in turn, of course, is going to affect your business. If you can take care of yourself and help yourself feel good and help yourself be at a place that is measuring up to the values that you determine that you want to have and be, then that's just going to turn over into every other area of your life, your business, your family, your everything, your spirituality, whatever it is for you. All of it's going to just be in line with each other because you're willing to have that personal development and have that ability to be that best version of yourself.
Well said. And I think that's a perfect segue into something that I know you're passionate about specifically this month, and not just this month, but every single day is my guess, which is mental health awareness. And it being May, I know there's a lot of discussion taking place on the internet and also in real life around mental health. And it's certainly something that I think you and I both agree is a big issue that affects a lot of people around the world. And it's very unfortunate. So maybe you can share a little bit about, what you're doing this month around mental health awareness, because I know you've been talking a lot about it, promoting it, at least making people aware. And I think that's fantastic. And I applaud you for that. So, but what are some other things that you're doing, or maybe what type of things have come your way as a result of you at least putting that out there?
Yeah, it's May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and it's something that I don't feel like we really every day, like you said, this is something I'm passionate about always. As an emotional facilitator, I get the opportunity to work with individuals and teach often about the subject of just your emotional well-being and helping people toward feeling that balance in their life. And really with the month of May, I've been working with other people, we all have come together to put out their different topics. There's a different topic every single day that people can find online and be able to just listen in, and for free, it's all for free, be able to partake in understanding a little bit more about, I speak specifically on like meditation. There's people who talk about how do you find a therapist. There's people who are speaking on directly to men and their mental health, and just bringing up subjects that sometimes are difficult for us, especially like the subject of suicide. That's something that no one ever wants to talk about. It's pretty taboo, but these are all things that are being brought up, and I think it's important for us to continue to talk about, especially these days. Teenagers, it's on the rise. It's coming up more and more that because of social media, especially, it gives people the opportunity to either compare themselves to others or kids to bully each other more. And there's all these things being fed to people that then wear them down a little bit more. And so I get the opportunities to just share about, ways to be more mindful in your daily living, as well as I often share about how essential oils can help. Every essential oil addresses a different emotion. And so they all can help you in being able to come to a place of feeling more balanced and feeling like you have answers and having that hope. And they just kind of walk with you. They're not like, a cure-all. It's just they're your friend to walk with you and help you understand more and put the pieces of the puzzle of you together. So that's kind of what the month of May is all about. And really, hopefully people can turn more often than just the month of May into being more aware of these things and kind of knowing they have other people and resources that they can reach out to.
I love that. And it sounds like it's a multifaceted approach, right? It's conversation in terms of listening and sharing some ideas. It's coupled with, meditation, which, I mean, there's so much, sort of evidence and out there that proves that that's a healthy thing for all of us. And even as you're sharing that, it's again, a reminder to me that I need to spend a little bit of time doing that. And then of course the essential oils, which are extremely powerful and beneficial. I like how you phrase it, which is, that those are there to kind of walk with you on that journey. And recognizing that, no particular product solves this because, but it is complementary, right? And I think, it is. And I think that you also make a really great point about the effect of social media and the effect that it has on individuals. And, this is definitely something I can relate to because I do, again, talk to my students about this. And, it's younger students and they're in the midst of this and, trying to figure things out. And we have these conversations about, what you tend to see on social media is everybody's sharing how amazing their life is. It's very rare outside of somebody passing away that somebody's showing you what they look like, without makeup or all sweaty or all gross or, if their car broke down or, all this crazy stuff, right?
I just did a post today about like what I would post versus what I am posting, because I feel that it's what I would love to see more and more of that. And I've worked with younger kids in coaching them and helping them to get over this, because it is a huge problem with not just kids. It's a huge problem with everybody in that comparison and in that, like putting yourself in that, like, oh, I have to, and I should. And this is what perfection looks like. And like, no, it's okay. Like cry, be sad, be mad, the ugly part. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think those, having those, I always like to share, it's natural to have certain emotions, right? It's natural to be angry and upset and frustrated. It's not the emotion that's wrong. It's just the response and how we approach the situation, right? So I always like to encourage people, like, if you're upset, feel upset. If you have to go scream into a pillow. If you get an email or a message and you're just frustrated and you want to sort of clap back or write the email, just don't have anybody on the two line. You write it to yourself.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Take a moment, breathe.
Take a moment.
Well, it's all like mindfulness. That's living meditation, because really it's taking that moment to breathe. It's taking that pause. It's taking that step back and just reflecting on, okay, how am I feeling? Where am I at? And being okay with how I'm feeling and where I'm at. And then just decide, like, how long do I want to sit with this? Like, is it going to be a day? Is it going to be for a week? And then set that day and say, you know what? In a week, I'm going to like be done pouting about this or being sad about this or whatever it may be. And then make that decision to then get up and make it a brand new day.
Exactly.
But being okay with that week long of your depression or whatever, you know, it's okay.
Right. Yeah, I love that. I love that. And the other thing I would just add to this conversation, which is, you know, sort of the social media and these impressions and how everybody's feeling a certain way, because it's like FOMO, right? This fear of missing out.
Yep.
And I've even had some people that have expressed to me that they've gotten off social media for a while because they're starting to recognize that they're feeling a certain way, this fear of missing out. And so they've just gotten off it altogether and just focused on the real world. And they've started to get back to a place where they feel better about themselves. And at the same time, they learn some techniques on how to deal with it. And I think that's the key, right? Because if we're going to be mentally strong, it's good to identify these feelings for sure. And I think it's also good to come up with some strategies on just how do you approach it. So for example, if you see somebody like, you know, living their best life, right? And maybe your goal is, you know, you see them traveling and your goal is to travel someday, rather than, you know, taking on those feelings.
Woe is me, I'm not doing it. Yeah.
Exactly. Rather than taking on those woe is me or the jealousy and all the envy and that stuff. Yeah. Just look, you know, convert it. Like look at that as maybe inspiration and say, oh, that's wonderful. I really want to get to that place, and still celebrate them and their happiness, but also celebrate the fact that your time will come. Right. In that, and just make sure that you're on the right path in terms of whatever you're doing to align yourself with getting to that destination and see it as a goal. Right. And I think that is in my opinion, at least, it's a little bit more healthier approach. And
it is. Yeah. I feel like you don't have to just fully get off. I do kind of laugh a little bit when people are like, oh, I'm just fully getting off of social media. Because I don't think that's necessarily what you have to do. I think you could take it off your phone and just choose to set times that you get on your computer and you're checking your social media and set a timer. If you like find that you get lost in your scrolling, set a timer and be done with it. But I think the most beneficial thing I personally have found, we're talking to someone, I took a 2-year break from social media. Like I didn't have all of the beginning of building my business was without social media. I didn't have it. And I really feel like the most beneficial thing now that I'm fully immersed in it is to put my phone down and just like go for a walk. And I'll go for a walk without music, without my phone, without anything. It's the weirdest feeling. Yeah. So you can just go into a grocery store without your phone. But like just getting back to that, like practice, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we weren't going everywhere with a cellular device,
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know if I could do that. I think I do that, but I think the times that I do, I've actually forgotten my phone in my car.
Right, exactly. But purposely doing it helps you. It retrains your brain to just have healthier thoughts and start to look at things that are around you instead of looking at your device and what's coming in through that. I love observing people. I love watching people. And when you leave your phone purposely behind, you get the chance to really see who's looking at you, who's walking by you and looking at their phone, or who's walking by you and looking into your eyes and smiling.
Yeah, I love that.
So
I love that.
It's huge.
Something I do on occasion is what I call the digital detox. And it's when I will take off the weekend from social media, or maybe a week, and I won't post any of the stories that I do. And it's interesting because on occasion I've had people that have reached out and asked, are you okay?
I did that. Yeah. I was like, where'd you go?
Where'd you go? Are you okay? And it's, and it's in part because a couple of things. One, I don't want to become too attached to the media. I love it, but I feel like there's also a break that needs to be had. I need to focus on the real world. Right. And then at the same time, I think that there's also just the fatigue factor too. I mean, it's every once in a while, in terms also with companies specifically, it's nice to have a break in the flow because then you can kind of come back and share some new things and you have that gap. It's almost as if in the real world when you haven't met and you haven't caught up with a friend in some time and, you know, maybe there's distance and a gap and you see them like 6 months later, like what's been going on? And you have this amazing conversation because you haven't been a participant in all the food they've been eating, all their workouts and, you know, everything in between.
Yeah, you have to power off. I like to say power off to power on, because you have to absolutely power off so that way it kind of just opens up all your other senses.
Yeah.
Like it helps you to be able to have come in so much more because you're not distracted.
I like that. Did you say you have to power off to power on?
Yes.
I love that. That is fantastic. Okay, so now I want to ask you a few questions before we wrap things up. The first one is, if you only had one country left to visit in the world, where would it be and why?
Oh, man. Geez Louise. There's so many. I would say probably Italy, and that's just because that's where my family comes from, and I haven't been yet. And I want to see it.
Great choice. Second question, your favorite book and why?
The Alchemist is my very favorite book. And I think it's because it's a quick read, but it's also like one of those that really gets you thinking about the way you're living your life.
And then describe the last random act of kindness you did in your daily life and how it made you feel.
I often like to pay for like fast food, if I like In-N-Out, for example. I'll pay for the person behind me. It's not just like, I think everyone's used to having your coffee paid for you. So once in a while, I like to freak out the like person behind me and pay for their lunch. They're like, I don't know this person.
Yeah.
But I like to either tip a little bit more, pay for people's meals. But to me, it's just like, why not give back in these extra ways to people who aren't expecting it, who have served in their capacity, whether it's a waiter or waitress, or even people who aren't expecting it. Maybe they've had a bad day and you don't know. And just if I have the thought to like do some random act of kindness, I'm going to do it. So it's kind of like a few times a week sort of thing.
Love it. And lastly, where can people find you online, Shauna?
I am on Facebook and Instagram and ShaunaWetenkamp.com.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate having you on the show, and we hope to have you back again real soon.
Thank you.